Alright, I'm reviewing The Death of Superman, the animated film. And this film does a very great job of doing what the Batman vs. Superman live action film actually felt to do. What we get here is a very beloved Superman that has a long established history in this world. He has all these different relationships, all this history with all these different characters, and it's really nice to see how Superman is this just beloved symbol of hope. After being exposed to the Batman vs Superman movie and the Man of Steel movie and the Justice League movie, yeah. But here, we get so many people that Superman's just familiar with so many characters. He has this really cemented place in the world. He Clark Kent is very expressive too when he's out of his Superman persona. We immediately open up with Superman saving the day alongside Justice League members. And he's on like a friendship level with all the members in this movie. You have uh, Wonder Woman, uh, Batman, Flash, Cyborg, Hawkman, Green Lantern, Aquaman, Martian Manhunter. But he saves the day, in the opening in a battle with the Intergang that got their hands on some pretty extreme alien weapons. Cyborg takes a piece back to the lab to be examined, and Superman, we get to see like Bebo. Uh, if you don't remember him, I remember him primarily from the '90s animated series. He's sort of that fisherman type guy that owns a seafood restaurant, and Lois comes up to Superman. They have a preset date. He takes her to Star Labs and shows her around. It shows her to you know the pod that brought him to Earth and the messages from his parents. This is a big deal for her job to get all this stuff to print, and it's quite clear that she doesn't know he's Clark Kent. But he flies. There's some a lot of flirtation between them though, as he flies her back to the Daily Planet, and she goes off immediately to find Clark, takes him into a closet, and he's like, "I'm beginning to think." He's like, "You always do this every time you come back from him. I'm beginning to think you have like a thing for him." He's like, "If you like, I could get some tights." And she's like, "Ooh, maybe this weekend." So that's very awkward and weird, and that's just strange. But uh, Lois gets to talking. Clark mentions that his parents are coming into town this weekend, and he's hesitant to let her meet them. And she's kind of negative about that. And, you know, he, his behavior is making her insecure about their relationship. And Kat is in this movie, and she's a gossip girl like she should be, unlike that Supergirl show where she's just a raging feminist. No, they did race change her here. That's a little strange in animation. But she's very much like Cat Grant, like the gossip Cat Grant that I'm familiar with. I hate that raging feminist with all of her leftist propaganda on that Supergirl show. It's just unbearable to watch. But here, this cat's pretty laid back. Gossip Girl likes to talk with Lois about the relationship with Clark and all that. And like, there's just so much going on in this movie. It's very mature, surprisingly, for an animated movie. It's it's pretty mature. It handles all the relationships on a mature level. You find out that Wonder Woman and Superman had some kind of history there where they had a relationship that didn't work out. And when he takes Lois to meet the parents, he's very guarded. Like, you have Jonathan and Martha Kinn here, and they're very fun and expressive, and they mention like a lot of things he did in his childhood and stuff, such as date Lana Lang, and that's really uncomfortable for him to be brought up. And he's so defensive, though. It's making Lois think that he doesn't want her to know anything about him, and creates a situation where when they leave from the Kents, she just kind of gets mad and storms off because she feels like she's being pushed away. And Martha and Clark have a mother son talk, and he really debates telling her whether or not about you know Superman, this dual identity thing, and he has some conversations with Wonder Woman about it and the other league members about it. Like Bruce is like, I gotta go to a parent teacher meeting for my son Damien. Well, I mean, you establish all these characters have such a prolonged history in this world, and that's really great. That's what how things should have been in the movies before it was the Justice League, and this has most of the Justice League members in it from the movie. Like it has all the Justice League members in it from the movie, so it's kind of weird like watching this and then comparing it to the Justice League movie. But it's pretty strong. They find out the metal came from Apocalypse, that piece from the earlier fight. Uh, yeah, Flash make fun of Superman. I mean, make fun of Batman for having to go to a parent teacher meeting. You'll have Aquaman and Flash kind of calling out Clark on, not telling Lois his secret identity. And then you have Lois talking with Kat, and she gets kind of afraid when Clark says they got to talk. And Kat's, oh, I'm sorry, Lois, thinking it's going to go bad. And Lois is thinking it's going to go bad. While the rest of the Justice League is handling something that came flying out of from outer space, killed a research team underwater of Lexus after it slammed through uh, sp- uh, spacecraft, a space shuttle in space, where there were these three astronauts, and hey, this one astronaut was really thinking that Superman was going to save him. He mentioned Superman saved him before, and they all end up dying. You see that once Doomsday comes to Earth, he just starts slaughtering people. Everybody that gets in his way, like just murdering innocents, very brutal, very ugly, and you feel bad for these animated characters. Like this dude's a monster. Like, uh, before all that, though, you have Superman pay a visit to Lex over the metal, and thinking he supplied Intergang with it, and Lex is on house arrest. He's got one of those ankle bracelets, and when Superman's like, "We're gonna find out if you're behind this," you have Lex pay a secret visit to a lab where he's also got an underground station for all these people that can monitor space, and they see the incoming thing and he wants it. He's also got all these experiments going on in this underground lab. And back to Doomsday, though, he's just slaughtering his way through everybody, and the Justice League goes to stop him. Wonder Woman says, Clark can go handle his date while we do this. And Clark goes to Bebo's restaurant, or Bibo. I can't remember exactly how to pronounce his name, but that's where he drops the big bomb on Lois that he's Superman. She's like, of course, how could I never see it before? It's kind of funny, though, because the way they handled that, I just wish the movies would have handled it like that. I know most people say it's illogical or whatever, but it's part of the mythos, big part of the Superman mythos. But the Justice League is getting their ass kicked. They need Superman, so he has to race off and go save them. Uh, Lois and Jimmy Olsen take uh, a chopper, a news chopper, and go try to scope out the scene. And Superman just gets in this very prolonged battle with Doomsday, this monster. And in the battle, he has to keep stopping him from trying to slaughter innocents. And, Lex tries to come out with a suit and try to be a hero, but he ends up getting defeated, and Superman has to save him. And then Wonder Woman almost gets murdered. Superman has to save her, and then Lois gets caught in the situation, and Superman Superman dies saving her after, well, about the same time he kills Doomsday. And it's just really heartbreaking scene for Lois. Like, really, was really, really well handled for animation. I mean, you could see the struggle, the emotion, the brutality. And as Superman, you could really like care about the character. It wasn't just this wooden thing that Henry was mostly in the movies portraying Superman. You got a lot of life out of Superman. You got a lot of personality out of Clark, and there's just all these characters that really established this really lengthy lived-in world. You had Jimmy Olsen, Cat Grant. You had Maggie Sawyer. You had Turpin. You had Bebo or Bobo, or however you say his name. You had the Kents. You had a pre-existing relationship, romantic relationship between Clark and Diana. You had them discussing and not saying their names in the field. Uh, you had him talking with Flash and Batman, all at their little table about some of their personal stuff. And Flash mentions how Iris has known he's Flash for a long time. Uh, you just have all this stuff in here that makes it really, it just feels really immersive. Like, you feel like you're in a world that, what the DC movies didn't do, they did not establish their world very well. They did not make Superman a beloved hero before killing him off. So it didn't have much impact in the movies. But here it's got a lot of emotional impact. And it's got a lot of emotional impact for everybody. Even Lex to an extent. And Superman dies, he gets buried, they have his funeral, all the Justice League members are there. Lex kind of speaks for him, and Lex is pardoned from his crimes for trying to help Superman defeat Doomsday. And, you know, Lex also wants to get his hands on Superman's body, but that body just ends up abruptly getting launched out into space from its rocket. Uh, and then bit later, Jimmy Olsen runs against Lois, and they all rush to see Superman in the distance from behind, just flying there in midair, and then he speeds off. And there's no real explanation, but in the end credits, we do get it littered with heroes like Superboy escaping that lab that Lex had. Uh, we see the cyborg Superman flying through space. We see the Fortress of Solitude rise with a Superman that's really unclear. We see Steel John, I forgot to mention John Henry Irons, and also the father of Cyborg make appearances in here. And John Henry Irons is wearing his Superman shirt, and in the end credits, you see him hammering his iron. And it's just going to lead to the rise up of all the Supermen in the sequel, which I will be reviewing soon when it comes out here on the 13th, I think. But I thought this was a really powerful animated movie. Easily an 8 out of 10. I mean, it was very respectful to the actual comic book origins with Doomsday when he came, when he rose. He had that costume on that gradually got tore off. Of course, it was a different Justice League roster at the time that fought him. I believe it was led by Booster Gold, and it had Martian Manhunter and maybe Fire and Ice in it, and a couple of others. At that time, they were rotating out lesser known members onto the Justice League to try to bring more popularity to lesser known characters and stuff. But I thought it was handled really well, exceptionally accurate to the comics. Did have its departures, but this was a very lived-in world with a large cast of people that were familiar with Superman and familiar with Clark, and it just expressed so much history. So it was awesome. You know, hopefully next time you see a live action Superman, they can build them up like this before they kill him off. Obviously, this is going to lead to a situation with Darkseid invading Earth in the sequel, most likely. Anyways, like, subscribe, comment. I rank this an 8 out of 10. Check out my other videos. Check out my GoFundMe link. Check out my PayPal me link. I'm not monetized. If you want to support my channel, those are the best ways to do so, and I would greatly appreciate it. Uh, Stay awesome. Rock on.